2019, you crazy people. Welcome, my friends, to the first installment of Metalhead Central for the new year. This is episode 6 overall. This is the show where I take an honest look at metal and hard rock albums and give them an honest ranking. I'm Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at Legion of the Damned's new album, Slaves of the Shadow Realm. This was the band's first LP in 5 years, and their second release on Napalm Records. I've talked about this label in the past. A couple of my favorite bands are signed to it. I feel like Napalm puts out fairly consistent albums. And this is an album that's full of what I'm calling creator worship. Some might even call it a ripoff of Creator. It's got that quick, ripping, no-holds-barred music that people might expect from a band like Legion of the Damned, or, like I said, Creator, the sort of thrash metal meets death metal kind of a thing. But, all the same, this album does seem to have a bit of its own personality, especially with the lyrical content. Creator, I know in their earlier days they were doing some sort of like occult stuff, but now they've sort of moved on to do more political stuff. Legion of the Damned sort of stick around the occult, dark religion, not really full-on satanic stuff, but just sort of really dark religious stuff. They stick to that, and that really helps the album have its own identity and its own personality away from a band like Creator. But I do digress a little bit. The album has a lot of great things going for it, namely in the speed department. It's just over 38 minutes long, so it's a bit of a ripper of an album, especially over the first 6 tracks. Like the first half of this album is just really quick. It's always fun to hear a metal band have this instinctual sense of speed, especially when it's used properly. There's a lot to like about the speed on this album, and it should be enough to open up a lot of huge circle pits at their shows, especially if they're playing huge festivals like Wacken or Summer Breeze, where there's like 60,000 people and the circle pits are epic. But as anybody who watches this channel knows, I'm also a stickler for dynamics. Yes, I know, dynamics in metal seems like an oxymoron, but it works. This album doesn't have a tank load of dynamics. I'd like the band to show a little more variety. Now, like I said, over the first 6 tracks of the album, the speed, it's like, okay, y'all can play fast. Can y'all play well? Can you do something that's a little bit different? Now, you can do this and still remain true to that death-y, thrashy image. I mean, heck, even bands like Slayer know when to show some restraint. See Seasons in the Abyss if you don't know what I'm talking about. They don't go full bore on every song, and I wish that Legion of the Damned had done something like that on this album. Now, they do throw on a small piano intro on the track Shadow Realm of the Demonic Mind, but then they go right back into the heavier stuff, and then they do the same thing again on the track Priest Hunt, only with a more orchestral intro. Now, I don't mind the heavier stuff at all, but tacking on a piano feel or an orchestra, it's so out of place if you're not going to sort of commit to do that feel or that style for the entire track. You can't add on, a Billy Joel-esque, oh, look at this piano is really nice, and then go into something by Slayer. You just can't do it. It doesn't work, it doesn't fit, it doesn't flow. So that would be my negative criticism of this album, is that they need more variety. They can't just tack on stuff and expect me to go, oh, well, that's variety. No, you need more variety on an album. Conclusively, this album had a lot to enjoy in the way of catchy riffs. Some of the guitar work on this album is absolutely outstanding. And I will admit the album itself is a rather enjoyable listen. It's not a terrible album. Will it be on the album of the year list at the end of the year? I don't think so, but it's an enjoyable listen. On the downside, as I said, there's a lot of repetition on this album. Variety is kind of non-existent, and it gets really old after 6 or 7 tracks of hearing the same drum patterns and sort of the same guitar work, but just with different solos and different little hooks thrown in. I get that it's a death thrash album, and that's what the band is going for, but like I said, even bands like Slayer know to throw variety in there in the way of dynamics and riffs. But if repetitive, death-y, thrashy metal in the vein of bands like Creator is your thing, then this album will be right up your alley. Personally, not quite my cup of tea, but an enjoyable listen. I'm going to give it an 86 out of 100 on the YPS scale. So there it is. First review of the year done, out of the way. Thank you so much for watching. Click like, subscribe if you haven't, and let's make 2019 a huge year for this channel. Let's make 2019 a big year for Metalhead Central. It's certainly going to be a huge year for the harder side of music, and I'll be here covering it all. Next week is a release that's actually one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I love this band to death, and I cannot wait to review this album. I've been waiting for it for months. Soilwork drops their new album next week. I cannot wait to review it. Everything I've heard off it so far has been absolutely fantastic, and I expect no less from these melodic death metal legends. So, with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.